I've done it for so long. These are stories from Stanley Holloway. You remember Stanley Holloway and My Fair Lady?
He's the Winnie the Pooh on it.
So yeah.
Yeah, well,
I remember.
anyway, and these were all done in the Lancashire dialect, and so that's how I learned them. Anyway, this story is called Albert and the Lion, and I do it in the Lancashire dialect, so not proper English. There's a famous seaside place called Blackpool that's noted for fresh air and fun, and Mr. and Mrs. Ramsbottom went there with young Albert, their son. A grand little lad was young Albert, all dressed in his best, quite a swell. He had a stick with an horse's head handle, the finest that Woolworth could sell. Well, they didn't think much of the ocean. The waves, they were piddling and small. There were no wrecks and nobody drowning. In fact, there was nothing to laugh at all. So straightway they went to the museum where they had lions and tigers and animals. There was one great big lion called Wallace. His nose was all covered with scars. He lay in a somnolent posture with the side of his face on the bars. Now Albert had heard about lions, and they were ferocious and wild. And to see Wallace lying so peaceful, it just didn't seem right to the child. So straightway the brave little fella, not showing a morsel of fear, took his stick with the horse's head handle and shoved it in Wallace's ear. You could see that the lion didn't like it, and giving a kind of a roll, he pulled Albert inside cage with him and swallowed the little lad whole. Now Pa, who had seen the occurrence and didn't know what to do next, said, "Mother, yon lion's gone and ate Albert." And Mother said, I am vexed." So straight they went to the animal keeper and said, "The lion's gone and ate Albert." The animal keeper said, "Are you sure?" And Pa said, "Am I sure? There's his cap." The manager had to be sent for. He came and he said, "What's to do?" Pa said, "Yon lion's gone and ate Albert, and him and his Sunday clothes too." The manager wanted no trouble, so he took out his purse right away and said, "How much to settle the matter?" And Pa says, "How much do you usually pay?" But Mother had turned a bit awkward when she thought where her Albert had gone. She said, "No, somebody's got to be summoned." So that was decided upon. So off they went to the police station in front of the magistrate chap. They told him what happened to Albert and proved it by showing his cap. The magistrate gave his opinion and said no one was really to blame. And he said Mr. and Mrs. Ramsbottom would have further sons to their name. At that Mother got proper blazing. "And thank you so kindly," she said. "What, waste all our lives raising children to feed bloody lions? Not me." Now I'll tell you the secret, how Albert comes back, so it doesn't leave a bad taste in your mouth. You've heard about young Albert Ramsbottom, who in the zoo up at Blackpool one year took his stick with the horse's head handle and shoved it in Wallace's ear. The name of the lion was Wallace. The poke in the ear made him wild. And to see Wallace lying so peaceful, well, it just didn't seem right to the child. Missed it somewhere. Anyway, he'd swallowed Albert whole. He could feel the lad moving inside him as he lay on his bed of dried ferns, and it might have been little lad's birthday. He wished him such happy returns. But Albert kept kicking and fighting till Wallace arose feeling bad and felt that it was time that he started to come back for the lad. So with his head down in the corner, on his front paws he started to walk, and he coughed and he sneezed and he gargled till Albert shot out like a cork. Old Wallace felt better directly, and once more his figure became lean. The only difference with Albert was his face and his hands were quite clean. Meanwhile, Mr. and Mrs. Ramsbottom had gone home to their tea feeling blue. Said Mother, I feel down in the mouth flat. And Pa said, I bet Albert does too. Said Mother, it just goes for to show you that the future is never revealed. If I thought we were going to lose him, I'd have not had his boots soled and healed. Let's look on the bright side, said Father. What's done can't be undone. What we can't cure, we must endure. And we did have young Albert insured. A knock at the door came that moment, and it was the man from Prudential. When Pa saw who was knocking, he laughed, and he kept laughing so. And Mother said to him, excuse him for laughing, but really things happen so strange. Our Albert's been ate by a lion. You've got to pay us for a change. Said the young man from the Prudential. Now, come, let's understand this. You don't mean to say that you've lost him. And Pa said, oh no, we know where he is. When the young man had heard all the details, a bag from his pocket he drew, and he paid Mr. and Mrs. Ramsbottom the sum of 9 shillings, 9 shillings, 4 pounds and 2. Pa had just got his hands on the money when a face at the window they see, and Mother said, look, it's Albert. Pa said, aye, it would be. Young Albert came in all excited and started his story to give, and Pa says, I'll never trust lions again, not as long as I live. Then giving young Albert a shilling, giving young Albert his horse's stick, he said, here, go back off to the zoo. Here's your stick with the horses that handle. Go and see what the tigers can do. Many mistakes, but that's okay.